Hey everyone, I'm Maddie.
And I'm Amber.
And we're Witches Talking Tarot. And today we're going to be discussing a little bit a lot. Yeah. I mean, I hope that makes sense. A little bit of a lot. But like the main topic of this episode is going to be about the snow fae. Yes. Now, there's not like a whole lot on
there's not
the
like
snow fae. Like there's not a lot of like specifics. Right. Check out our previous episode, The Wild Hunt, where we discussed some of the snow fae,
As well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we love and light that bitch. But that's okay, because I'm going to make this one darker today. Promise
I'm excited.
Yeah. But like... Okay, so with the snow fae, the most specific thing I did see was about the winter court and that Queen Mab was, okay, so in past tense, was the queen of the winter court of the fae. But she has retired somewhere, or some think she's dead, or some of that kind of bullshit. Mm-hmm. And so she just was and somewhere is off secretly the queen of the fae. And I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't read too much on Queen Mab specifically because I couldn't tell if that was from like a storybook series or
that's
from
what's
like
so hard about like fae and fae mythology and general or fae lore, because we had discussed fae is mostly what? Irish, Celtic,
it originates
Gaelic,
in the Celtic,
Scottish.
I think there's like the German that also has some fae involved. I couldn't find anything on,
but
like,
they tell it like they're a lot like real people, and that's where it gets confusing.
Right, but again, they believe that all these magical creatures are completely real as a culture, like pretty much, like as a whole, which is really cool. And I like how it seems that the fae are split up seasonally, right? So there's the spring fae and the summer fae, and they're part of the summer court. And then there's the autumn fae and the winter fae, and they're part of the winter court. And one thing that I had read about the winter fae, right? So the autumn fae are actually a bit darker than the winter fae, which I found to be interesting. But in the autumn, everything is literally dying. In the winter, things are regenerating and getting ready for rebirth.
I apologize. So this is child related.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like I thought that was kind of interesting because like it said like the autumn fae smelled different. Like they each have their own scent associations or whatever.
Right. The winter fae is like peppermint.
Well, like the winter fae smells like wet leaves, but autumn fae smells like rotting stuff and decomposing things.
Which makes sense.
Right, exactly. Like it made sense, like the things that they're supposed to smell like, because it's literally, that's what you're going to smell outdoors when you're walking through the woods in that time of year. I do picture winter fae as peppermint, like dressed up in red and white. Like,
you do? I see them as
in all sorts of different ways. I see little sugar plum fairies. I see little red and white fairies. I see little ones that look like
snowdrops and snowflakes. Yes, that's my go-to is the snowflakes and the raindrops and things.
And I picture them as like the red berries that you can see outside during winter.
Oh, that's pretty. I like that.
But I also like the idea of they are white and they can burrow through the snow and move about the landscape unseen because
I read that they ride things like little hares, like rabbits, white rabbits, and they're like bounding and riding on them.
I love that. I can see that just from childhood iconography.
There's this book. I haven't read it in over 10 years, but it's called Wicked Lovely. Have you heard of it? It's about the fae, and it's, I'm pretty sure it's about, I'm going to look it up real quick. It's gorgeous. I tried to read it, and it's, the cover is gorgeous. I'm pretty sure it's about, like, this king falls in love with this, mortal woman. So it's by Melissa Marr, and it's basically who has the sight, she can see the fae folk, and if you can see the fae folk, they want to kill you.
Oh.
Right. So like
you can see what they're up to.
Yes. Okay. So as like the cover's gorgeous. It's a very good book. Like
that's cool.
I haven't read it in forever. So when I think of fae, like snow fairies, my mind goes to that cover because it's literally covered in like the ice, the flower covered in the ice.
No, I get that because like I very much think of snow fairies like in a manner of like their wings look like snowflakes. You know what I mean? Like they have white gossamer wings and they look like snowflakes, and maybe they're lighter haired, you know, they're fairer skinned.
Well, they're German.
They're all Snow White.
Yeah, right. But there's not.
So they blend in with what is out there in the natural landscape because that's where they live, that's where they exist. That's where they're being and doing their thing and helping the world move through its cycles.
I could see like a little trickster winter fairy coming around and being like, frostbite on your toes, frostbite on your toes, because you know they're
Jack Frost.
Yes, or on your nose. Yes,
like he has his own little army of winter fairies.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
so that's what I'm thinking.
Jack Frost.
They're like, oh,
I
we're
love
gonna
that.
make you really
So like
cold.
they breathe. And they blow you a kiss, and then you have like icicle on your window, and it just like
I
spreads.
love that. So
and you've been blessed by the fairies. Oh my God! What if every time when you see that ice pattern on your windows, you've been blessed by the winter fairies and the snow fairies?
I love that
because it doesn't always happen.
No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I love that.
Because like I love when it like blooms out. And it almost looks magical.
Would snow fairies be one of those that you would ask for protection during the winter time because you want to stay warm, or are they the exact opposite and you want to kind of keep them away because they bring the cold with them? Protection from the cold versus bringing the cold.
Okay, so what I read of the winter court, so this first answer is specifically to the winter court, it said that the winter fairies were more likely to help humans or do things for humans than the summer and spring fairies. And, but like the autumn fairies were as likely as the winter fairies, but the autumn fairies are going to kind of fuck you over, whereas the winter fairies are more helpful to humans. And I think that's because the winter fairies exist during the time when there's least available in the world. So they understand that need and that desire and that want. And so they're more willing to work with humans, without being as crappy about it, but they still want their 2 cents. You know, they still want their come up, or, you know, they want their part of the deal along with it. But I would think that they would be, they're the fae, so this part does not include the winter court, it's just fae in general. I personally don't know that I would petition the fae in any which way because, like a genie, how is my shit going to go wrong?
Right.
Am I going to have a monkey paw experience?
Just a disclaimer, don't petition the fae for, like, anything unless you know what you're doing.
This is our talking, guys. And you do with you want, which, yeah.
I hear that. And
what about you? What do you think?
I think it would be a situation, like you said, I don't work with the fae, so I wouldn't want to petition the fae. But when I think of winter fairies, I think of more, I'm gonna, like, bringing you frostbite, or let's make the fireplace go out in the middle of the night so they get really cold in the morning and have to start all over. Not necessarily
just being trickster. That's trickster behavior.
Yes.
And I wonder, so is it the fairy energy that keeps the winter bitter longer? Or is it the fairy energy that draws us back toward the sun and brings us back into something more pleasant?
I like that.
Sorry, I just had that thought as you were talking.
No, I like the second one.
I do too. Like, I like the idea that, like, that fairy energy of the winter fairies is like bringing us through that part of the year, and they are literally putting their energy toward the turning of the wheel and the sun being more strong. And yes, that means their reign in the winter court is over and the summer court's about to take over again come spring. But the world is a better place for everybody to exist. And they actually go like in the underworld or some other world during the winter time. So during the spring and summertime. So I think they actually want that. They want to be able to get back away from the world.
They hate being around.
Oh my God, these people are so dramatic.
That's why they're like, fucking turn off their fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like they're like, oh my God, these people are so annoying. They leave me this like half stale bread and then they want my help.
My milk is fucking frozen and then they expect me not to freeze their fucking well. Well, what did you expect? You know what I mean?
True. Because the Fae are like that. That's why we say we wouldn't work with the Fae.
A lot of people do. It's just not. It's just not for me.
Yeah, that energy I don't want to invite in personally.
Right.
Now I do wonder, because as you mentioned, Tort, a little bit ago in this episode, with it being like predominantly Celtic that have fairy associations, and the Celts believe they really are descendants of these magical beings. As descendants of Celtic heritage, should you automatically honor the Fae because that is your ancestor?
Okay, so like here is...
This is just conjecture, guys. And if you know, in the comments, tell me. Go ahead, sorry.
I don't think anyone's obligated to do something like that because of their birth. I think it's more of a belief system. I don't think you have to be born into any specific culture to hold that belief. I don't think that you have to... that being said, I don't think if you are born into that culture, you're obligated to hold that belief.
Fair enough.
I think it's per person.
Yep.
You know, I hope that makes sense.
It does. It does make sense.
Because you could be from India and not identify as Hindu.
Yeah.
You could be from Florida and identify as Hindu because you correspond with those beliefs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Fair enough. I got you. I ask this as somebody, like this question developed in my mind as somebody who follows an ancestral path, is like 20% Celtic, and was like, shit, do I need to honor the fairies? Because like technically my Celtic ancestors thought that they were our ancestors.
I feel like if you feel compelled to, then definitely, because that's like your path calling to you, but I don't think it should be an obligation.
No, that makes
one
perfect
way or
sense.
the other.
That makes perfect sense. Because like, y'all, Fae energy be scary.
It is so
like,
scary.
The Wild Hunt. As we alluded to at the beginning of this, the Wild Hunt is where other snow fairy lore comes in.
Right.
And they are a rowdy bunch. You can get swept up by the fairies in the Wild Hunt. Because, like, they don't care. Like, they don't give no fucks. They party and hardy, motherfucker. And if you're in their way, you're coming along.
And you
turn right.
I just imagine them, like, dancing around someone and they turn into, like, snow.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they just disappear, right?
Yep. And it's like, it's that magical snow that has a sparkle to it.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
where was the light that came? Where'd the light hit that snow from?
Right, exactly, exactly. So, like, I guess they have good and bad correspondences then, because you say, like, the winter court is more likely to aid humans.
Yes.
Whereas with the Wild Hunt, you could easily be swept up.
Right, and you might not come back.
And you
they might keep you. You might go to the Fae world and basically just become like one of their
slave.
Yeah.
That is on Kindle Unlimited too.
Yeah. Really?
Yes,
wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Sorry guys, I just got a Kindle and I just got Kindle Unlimited.
Cool.
So I'm like looking at all this shit and I'm like, that is absolutely something.
Wow.
Check out the ebooks.
Wow. Yeah. I have literally never thought about being like taken by the fairies, but there's like a whole lot of lore about that. We should do an episode about Fae. Right. What's it called? Changelings? Like the ones where they think that you've been taken and replaced by Fae.
Right, yeah. I would totally do that.
Totally a
Kidnapped by the Fae.
Yeah,
I don't know if it sounds exhilarating, exciting, or terrifying.
Right.
Because, like, I imagine they probably wouldn't be too nice, but then when I think of it, I'm like, but think of all the food.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Would
like,
they be intentionally mean, or would it just be the difference between their culture and our culture?
I know. Like, well, and I'm trying, would it be so horrible? Yeah, would they be nice? Or would they be mean? I don't know. We'll check out Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah, I was going to say, I almost said I'm curious, but no, knocking on wood.
Oh my God, did I say it? Did I say that?
Did not.
Okay,
no.
Promise.
Yeah,
Can we light an incense?
Yeah, for sure.
Is that a good idea?
I don't know. It's for prosperity.
It's okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's okay.
Yeah. But we've got lavender going.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
We're safe.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, the Fae is just a very, like... I am intrigued by the Fae.
I think the scary thing to me about the possibility of getting kidnapped by the Fae is what happens in this world. Are we just
How does
missing?
It work there? Yeah, okay.
Have we just gone missing?
And for me, it's how do you act in the other world? Like, you don't know the other world. Like, what if
do they speak the same language?
Right, probably not. Probably not at all. Like, would you be able to understand? Are you swept up because you're a person that would be able to exist over there? Maybe you got a little
I just need to get like a little tape recorder. Book idea. second one. Or third one. Right. Third one, technically.
Right. Like, it's a very interesting concept. And winter fairies, because fairies are generally associated with like flowers and fruits and all these things in the spring and the summer.
I think
but they exist all year.
Right. And I think I may be one of the minorities in thinking when I think of fairies, I think of winter fairies, actually.
Okay.
They're my go-to.
When I think of fairies, I think of, I guess not what anybody else thinks of, because I think of fairies existing in the same manner as humans, that they're going around the wheel of the year just like we are.
They're like the same?
Yeah, like in the summer and the spring, they use leaves and berries and flowers to dress themselves and adorn themselves. And their wings are kind of camouflagey, so they have like an appearance of petals or leaves or something that goes along with whatever that fairy is dressed in, right? Because they've got to blend in so that we don't immediately see them, the ones who have the ability, right?
Now I'm like, how many butterflies did I see that weren't butterflies? It was
%. Remember when I told you I was driving in the car and the thing flew in front of my car like it was a leaf, but it wasn't a leaf?
Right.
Like, guys, I'm not crazy, but I swear to God it was a fairy wearing a leaf.
We saw a fairy together.
Yeah, we did.
Remember when we left the offering? It was like yellow light. It was crazy.
Like, and so I go, they have to be able to camouflage themselves, right?
Right.
And so I just think that they're kind of like, they just evolve throughout the seasons just like we do as people. So like, I've never thought of them being different fairies in the seasons. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, like, I don't know, like, maybe I'm weird. I don't know. Is that a weird thought?
I don't think so.
Because, like, I've always just thought about it, like, in the spring they're wearing flowers, and in the summer they're wearing fruit.
Well, it makes sense, and also, like, with
in the fall, they're fallen leaves, and in the winter, there's snow and icicles, and they're the little mushrooms throughout the year that pop up everywhere.
Right, and then there's like one of them just wakes up and they're fucking yellow and they're like, oh, spring's coming.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's random dandelion. They're like, wow, you changed really early this year.
And they're like, yeah, I evolved. That's what we're supposed to do. I don't know. Like, I guess, what do you guys think about fairies? Like, what are your go-to immediate fairy thoughts? Again, like, okay, I think my go-to immediate fairy thought is fucking Tinkerbell.
Really? Really, you think so? So
I think that is the first. It's not the first place I go from a spiritual level, but it's just the first thing that pops in my head.
For me, it's the Barbie Nutcracker fairies.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I'm
gonna have to see it for myself.
Do love me some sugar plum fairies. And little sparkly fruit girls.
They're so cute, like the little snow fairies. I guess that is like those two little girls. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can dig it though. I can dig it. What are your first thoughts with fairies, guys? Like what do you
There is a snow fairy and a not fairy. Like you were totally right. Like we were just
I don't know. Like I don't know. I really love snow fairy pictures.
I'd be thinking of them dancing and doing the ballet for the Wild Hunt. That's what I see with the fairies with the Wild Hunt. Yeah. You know what I mean?
With the fairies with the Wild Hunt, I definitely see like drunken debauchery happening. But they're like this big.
Yeah. Oh hell yeah, dude. Oh my god.
It's like
fucking
like
Ella
Enchanted. Snow falling on you. That's like their beer.
Ella fucking Enchanted, where the fairy godmother looks like she's getting a DF or an FWI. An FWI. Flying while intoxicated, and she's like fucked up trying to fly.
Wings are like half fluttering, and you're kind of sputtering, and that's how you run into the humans and sweep them up into the Wild Hunt.
They're like, oh
fucking
shit,
drunk. That is how I picture the Wild Hunt. But
they're German, so
in a really beautiful ice-coated way.
Yes,
like they are sparkly, like they're covered in fucking rhinestones.
Yes, I love it. I do.
Did you have anything else?
I didn't actually.
Like,
it's a really short episode,
right.
but like there's
we
only
thought there
so
would
much.
Be more.
We did.
We
When we decided to do it, we thought like there'd be more research and more stories and more myths.
Like, I found a puka,
really,
but I don't know that counts as a snow fairy.
I don't think
like
so.
It's a fae, but is it a snow? I don't know that it counted. Because like,
right.
So I was just like. Yeah.
Well, and I'm gonna go ahead and
we
say
should probably do fuller episodes on these other things that
right.
are not quite this thing.
Well, and I'm gonna say I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it is a Celtic belief system, and we've done Celtic before, and it was word of mouth for so long, and so many stories have been lost, which is so fucking sad.
So frustrating.
It's frustrating and it's sad that these cultures and these beliefs have been almost erased.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean? And certain things like snow fairies
and part of it's
erased.
like the taboo of writing it down because you don't want the knowledge to fall into the wrong hands. I mean, like, for some of us that believe the Bible is just a written code, I'm pointing at me if you're not watching on YouTube. This is not a Maddie thought at all.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yes, absolutely. But like, if you're like me, then you think the only reason it was allowed to be written down is because it doesn't mean anything that it says at face value because it's a complete code, right? And so like, if you didn't think to write it in a code, you couldn't write these things down, but you didn't want just anybody to get their hands on just anything, especially when the Christian church is coming in and trying to take over. Having that written down would be like proof that you're somebody that either has to be forced to convert or be killed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that's why Book of Shadows are more of like a modern type concept because you couldn't write it down.
Write it down if you had that shit hidden. That was like signing your own death warrant.
Exactly.
Like, and a very awful one at that. There's no cool shit, it's martyrdom along with that shit.
I feel like
cruelty.
There probably is a lot more stories, but unfortunately, it's been lost.
Snow of time.
Yeah.
It melted. And it went back into the ethers.
Right.
And then the snow fairies came back as spring fairies.
Well, it's only just now becoming less like crazy psycho taboo to actually like look into these things after so many years.
And the internet allows for you to look into these things where before you had to buy a lot of expensive books that wouldn't necessarily have the information and sometimes wasn't even translated into your language yet.
Right. Well,
now we have like a global economy.
And it's not just the Celts. The Celts are really bad like with loss of things, but I know there's like pre-Islamic Saudi Arabia and like I mean like so much culture is lost.
Every culture.
Mayans, they don't even you know what I mean?
Like, and a lot of it's because as you had mentioned, word of mouth, that's how this was done. It was intended to go from generation to generation to generation, but there became a time where it became taboo to talk about.
You were too scared to even talk about it.
Because you might get in trouble. You might get your children in trouble. Like, if you teach these things to children, and their children, they're going to repeat what they've heard. What if they repeat to the wrong person? Your whole family is going to
I mean, there was a time in Scotland where you couldn't even wear a kilt. You couldn't dress like a Scot.
You couldn't wear green in Ireland.
Right, exactly. Like you could, because it was
to suppress what was native in that area. And I mean, in America, we're not trying to sugarcoat over it. It's just, America had the same thing happen a lot.
Exactly. It was just different times.
Right. Yeah. It was suppress what was here so that a new narrative can take place.
Right, because there were tribes in Scotland and in Ireland.
Yep,
the what were they called? Clans. They called them clans. Oh my God. They were just their beliefs.
My grandmother's maiden name is Shaw, and it means like the clan who lives in the burrows or some bullshit like that.
Yeah, it's very sad.
So it is. So like, it's just a lot of things have been lost. So if you were expecting something that we didn't cover, please tell us in the comments so that we can look into it and we can do future episodes with more content. Because when we looked, most of what we could find was Winter Court and the Wild Hunt. I mean, I found some other things, but I just don't feel like they counted as snow fairies at all. Like, there's a Russian story about a little girl made out of snow, but she's not a fairy.
Right.
Just like the puka, it's not a fairy. But anyway, if we missed stuff, which we probably did, and because of word of mouth and how you were raised, let us know in the comments and like and subscribe while you're there, YouTubers, because we appreciate you. And the more interaction we have, the more it helps us get out there so that more people have to listen to us.
Yeah. You can follow us on Twitter at Classy Switches and check us out on Instagram at Witches Talking Tarot. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Melissa. Thanks for supporting us on Patreon. You can find us on Patreon at Witches Talking Tarot. And Facebook at Witches Talking Tarot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for sitting with us for a spell.
Bye.